I never knew that he worked.
I've known Mike for 32 years since I've been married to Don, his cousin that long, and I'll never forget what he said to me when I first met him. He said that I was a well-appreciated addition to their family, something similar to that. So, I love Mike. Thank you.
Oh, that's sweet.
particular. The first speaker that we have lined up is Charles Dunlop, who is the Executive Director of the Texas Retirement System. He would like to say a few words about his time with Mike. So Charles, if you could come up, please. By the way, apparently we are having a little bit of leakage through the ceiling. So, for any of you who are being hit by that, we do have some open seats, and you should feel free to kind of migrate over this way. See, Charles?
Go as they went until we get to the sleeping center. You feel this? No, you feel this minute is bad.
I'm here to join you and celebrate your retirement from Watson Wyatt. I feel I guess I say from the outset from Watson Wyatt's standpoint, you'll do well to emulate and replicate everything that Mike Carter embodies in service as a consultant. If you do that, you'll be successful. If you can't, you will not be successful. Mike joined the Teacher Retirement System of Texas in 1976. And I say joined because I relate to Mike as an extension of our executive group. At that time, the system had $3 billion in assets, and his associate Clark Baird was the signatory representative for Watson Wyatt Company on the actuarial reports for the system. Last year, after the diminution that we suffered in our investment portfolio from the events of September the 11th and others, the system closed the fiscal year with $80 billion in assets. And so Mike has been our actuary since 1976. He began to sign a report in 1981, and the system's assets have increased more than 26 times since that date. To a large degree, what has occurred in the state of Texas for the over 1 million people served by this system, almost 1 in 5 people directly for the state of Texas, I attribute to the importance, to the wisdom, and to the capacity of Mike Carter. His experience as a resource has been a terrific resource to the system. I depend on it personally. Our board depends on it. And Mike, we're really proud of you. Lynette, we know Mike couldn't get any place without you because he's always off fishing. And here in the midst of this event, he can't stay away from the water long enough. He makes the water fall down on us. Mike, we're very proud of you. I want you to know how important you are to this system. And I will tell you that in my well over 30 years of experience with financial entities, I can think of no person, not one person, whose personal service exceeds yours. You're really quite a resource, and we appreciate it.
Something tells me that that set a trend for some common things that we're going to hear over the course of the evening as well. The next person that I'd like to ask to come forward is Clark Beard. Clark? For those of you who aren't aware, Clark is the retired president of Watson Wyatt.
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me here tonight. About 25 years, a little over 25 years ago, I believe it was, my telephone rang one day in the Dallas office of the Wyatt Company at the time, and it was a gentleman named Mike Carter. And I'd known Mike for a while and had been exposed to him some. In fact, we'd taken a train trip, I believe, a couple of years before that, from Laredo down to Mexico City for an Actuaries Club meeting. And sometime after that, our youngest daughter was born and Mike's son was born. I don't have anything to do with that trip.
Mike came in the office and said, you know, I don't think I have near as much fun in my job as you have in your job. I said, great. He said, I'd like to come work with the wire company. So we talked for about 10 minutes. I said, Mike, come on in. The water's fine. And Mike came on in, and fortunately, very soon after Mike came, we got a couple of good assignments. One was with Southern Methodist University. Excuse me. Dr. Jim Sumberg was the new president of SMU, and he had quite a bit of problems. So Mike and I worked on that case, and then very shortly after that, the Texas Teacher Retirement System assignment came up. Mike and I worked on that. So I recognized Mike's talents very early on, decided I would work with him as much as I could to train Mike. I found that within a very short time, I was a trainee. And Mike was a natural-born consultant. He had great integrity. He always did the right thing. And I can't say enough about how much I appreciate the great help that Mike gave me over the years. And I'm very proud of being part of Mike's career that has blossomed as it has, as you heard from the last person who spoke up here. Mike, I say, good luck to you in the future, and God bless you and your family.
Mike, our next speaker was going to be Bob Webb. Unfortunately, he was not able to make it tonight. Pass on his regrets, but I'm sure Bob will talk to you at a later time. What I'd like to do is ask Eric Walkern. If Eric would please come forward. Eric is the global head of the retirement practice of Watson Wyatt.
Mike, I'm going to tease you a bit, is that okay? Tease you a bit, is that okay? Okay. Who's this? We all have this, and I'm just wondering, who is this? Is this you?
It was.
Well, I got to tell you that's unique because, you see, everybody in this room, we age, but W. Michael Carter, you're the only one among us who mutates. We had a wonderful reception there, and I was talking to a lot of people around the room, and everybody was just saying the same thing, which was, sure glad they decided that it was going to be New England versus Oakland tonight. If it had been the Rams and the Pack, it would have been you, me, and 75 Telegraph. I love Mike, but I do want to tell you that he's the only person I know who's older than he is tall. So, every one of us, we get real excited when we hit 50 or 60. Mike got real excited when he hit the big 5'3". W. Michael Carter is the only person I know who has a contractual provision to go to halftime if he chooses to 2 years after he retires. I was telling my wife about that, and she said, "Oh, how nice that Mike has this provision to return back to work if he wants." No, you don't quite understand. It's for full time to halftime that he has the provision. But I was looking at this and I was wondering if W. Michael Carter, not Michael Carter, W, Michael Carter. It sounds like you don't like it, but you're just too honest to get rid of it entirely. Either that or you like George Bush a lot. But I investigated the W, and I want to tell you there's nothing to be ashamed about White. But seriously, I don't know how many of you here have known the thrill, the unequaled scintillation of time with Mike, of conversation with Mike, of being inspired by his boundless energy or the sheer effervescence of working side by side with Mike. And no, I don't. But in talking with people from Dallas, I hear it as well. But seriously, let's try to do it seriously again. Mike Carter defines so many things for us because what Mike is what all of us should be. He's a walking role model. Mike is a role model of what it means to be a professional. Mike Carter is a role model of dedication. Mike Carter is a role model of loyalty. And when we first spoke with Mike about the change in the public business where it ended up becoming part of GRS, that was something that you all should have seen. It was me and John Haley and Mike in the room talking about it, all three of us with tears in our eyes, because Mike has meant so much to us. Everybody here would do well to look to Mike Carter for inspiration on what it means for hard work. As the Texas system just said, everybody here should look to Mike Carter for the example of what it means to be client-focused. Mike Carter defines what it is to be an actuary. Now, in closing, in order to close, I want to share with you first. This was, I guess, lots of kids have secret languages, and my two sisters developed a secret language. I eventually figured out what it was. And the way the secret language works is for a vowel, you say the vowel, but for a consonant, for T you say tub, for B you say bub, for R you say rub, and so forth. And this works out pretty well. Mike is Mobai Cubby. I'm Rabbi Cub. My sister Terry, who invented this, was Tubby Rub Rub Yub. So it had a certain charm. You'll be hearing soon from Mr. Jubbo Pub the Paley. Even that gravitas in a kid's language makes me sick. But looking at this language, on closing, I just want to say, Mobai Cubby, we already miss you. Mobai Cubby, we will always love you. Mobai Cubby, you are in our heart. Mobai Cubby, you are our heart. You are our soul. Mike, thank you for everything. We wish you the best. You are a wonderful, inspiring person.
Wow.
Okay, John, your work's cut out for you. I'd like to introduce John Haley, our current Chief Executive Officer. John.
Get that on there. We need to take a minute or two to let that warm up. Yeah, I should be able to do better than Colin Eric. That's just not fair. I'm delighted to have the chance to be down here for this, and I'd like to thank people organizing it and Mike for inviting me. I know I was talking with somebody, a couple of people earlier, who said, "Oh, it's great that you came down here for this." Yeah, it's just okay. And actually, I was reminded of a book I read a couple of years ago by a guy, Sean Callahan. And he was an informer for the IRA. And he was in the IRA, and they actually turned out to be, he switched sides, and he was informing them on them for the British government. But he was talking about, he wrote a biography later on, and he was talking about growing up in his family, and they were all very much IRA sympathizers, and particularly his grandmother. And his grandmother used to talk to them about if they had found some of the British sympathizers who had been shot, what they should do is dig them up and shoot them again, just to be sure that they were dead. Now, why did that occur to me when I heard that Mike was retiring and I was coming down here? Well, I did want to make sure. I am indeed delighted to be here. I want to second a lot of the things that Eric said about Mike. I do want to actually share with you, one of the nice things about being in my position is we have access to a lot of information about people. And I actually had picked up on something that Eric had noticed earlier about the W. Michael Carter. And in fact, we looked into this, and we were looking at Mike back in when he first joined us in February of '76. And actually everything then is William Michael Carter. Well, geez, that's funny, because it's William Michael Carter. It's about a year or so later, and then all of a sudden, everything becomes W. Michael Carter. And so we actually called up and talked to some people who'd been around the Dallas office at that time. They said, "Oh yeah, all of a sudden, he got really serious about this, and he insisted it had to be W. Michael Carter." So we had to call him. And so, can we just take a look at this? This is, maybe we can just click up to this. And it was February 1st, 1976, that Mike Carter joined what at that time was the Wyatt Company. A little bit later, go ahead. Jimmy Carter. Became the president. Now, go ahead. In 1977, yet another Carter enters the public spot. And now we realize what happened. That's the whole slideshow, yeah. That's it. Let me also turn serious for a few minutes. Mike Carter, Eric said it probably far better than ever, but Mike is just a role model for what it means to be a terrific consulting actuary. Mike and I have had the chance to interact over the course of many years, and sometimes from afar, sometimes working a little bit closer on things. I actually joined the Wyatt Company in April of 1977, so a little more than a year after Mike did, but knew of him, knew of the kind of work he was doing down here, and was always delighted when we had a chance to talk and interact, to see the kind of enthusiasm, the kind of professionalism that he brought to working with his clients. In fact, that was brought up earlier this evening. We were talking across the table, and Mike started telling me about this deterministic projections that they had done for the state of Hawaii, and how he was out presenting the results for these. And he and I got into a pretty, what I thought was a pretty interesting discussion for a few minutes, and then I heard somebody else turn to a companion and say, "Those two really are actuaries, aren't they?" But anyway, I think Mike has brought that kind of enthusiasm, that kind of professionalism to his clients and to the Wyatt Company, and I think he's worked well for his clients, and he's made the people in the company a lot better for that. I did find out one thing that's interesting, though, that maybe we can apply this in the future, but you clearly should have been charging us a percentage of assets, Mike. Because I don't think your fees have gone up 26 times. I think the other thing that I've seen, though, in my dealings with Mike over the years, and it's something that Eric alluded to, is his complete dedication to the company. You know, the company has gone through some ups and downs over the years, and a few years ago, we had an investment in an outsourcing operation, Wellspring, that had gone very bad, and we had to go through some real restructuring and write off a significant value of the organization, and we had to go through some restructuring to make everything work. And I was involved in doing that at the time. That was what my job was to try and figure this thing out and to take care of this. And I went around and was doing a lot of presentations to people all around the company and trying to convince them that this solution that we worked out was something that everybody should vote for. And when we came in, we were doing something in Dallas. I know Mike was one of the ones who had the most questions. Why? Why does this work for here? Why does it work for that? And after he asked all these questions, he was somebody who convinced himself that even though maybe this wasn't the best thing for him, it was the best thing for the company, and he was out there fully in support of it, and in fact leading the charge. I think that's a good example of like the selfless dedication that Mike and others that have really made the Wyatt Company and now Watson Wyatt what it is. And I saw that earlier last year. Eric mentioned when we decided that we thought for some strategic reasons it might be best for us to exit the public plan business. Eric and I talked about that, and we decided quickly that if we wanted to pursue this, we needed to talk to Mike about it because we didn't have anything worth doing if Mike wasn't a part of that. And we set up a meeting, and we went through it, and we walked through the whole logic of the situation and everything. And Eric's right, the three of us were all there with some tears in our eyes, but Mike listened to it all, and he said, I consider myself somebody who joined the Wyatt Company. I'm a Wyatt employee, a Watson Wyatt employee. I believe Watson Wyatt. He said, that's never going to change. I think Gabriel Rivers Smith is a great organization. I can go to them and I can work with them, but I'm always going to consider myself somebody from Watson Wyatt. But I think this is the right thing to do for the organization, and so yes, I'd be glad to do it. Mike, I think that's just, you've had a lot of great moments, but I think that's your finest moment. It's the way I'll remember you, and for me, you'll always be a Watson Wyatt employee. Godspeed and good luck.
That's starting to bring back some memories. The first time I even heard of Mike Carter, I will never forget. I was at our new house that we were moving into, and the moving van had pulled up about an hour before a phone call came in, and actually that phone call was from Sanjay Varma. And Sanjay said, "Guess what, Phil? You're gonna have a job that you got to complete." I was like, "Okay, well, what's that?" He said, "Well, we're working out this deal with GRS and Mike Carter, and I thought to myself, well, that's a very interesting way to be introduced to the firm and to the Dallas office." And quite frankly, I was a little bit intimidated at first because I had heard Mike's name before, and I knew that he was a major shareholder and was a very well thought of person within the organization. And as Mike and I got together and started working together throughout the course of that transaction, and let's be real honest too, it was not an easy transaction because seeing someone like Mike Carter lead the organization as well as many outstanding associates who left with him was something that was really very difficult. But through the course of that entire transaction, Mike was extremely supportive. He was behind it 100%. He always thought about everything with the utmost integrity. And Mike, and I told you this before, I was pleased to have the opportunity to work with you and really appreciated the support and teamwork that you showed me personally throughout that process, and Watson Wyatt as an organization as well. What I'd like to do now, though, is I'd like to pass the microphone actually to my son, Ben.
Oh, I'd like to first ask if someone could pull me aside after this and let me know who Billy Carter is. I appreciate that. When my dad told me he'd have the retirement party, one of the first things I thought about was I wanted to take the opportunity to make a speech. I wanted to be able to express the amount of respect and admiration I have in my father, both for who he is as a person and what he's done for Watson Wyatt during his tenure there. You know, this is a day I never thought I'd see where my father is no longer an employee at Watson Wyatt, which is one of those things that you thought would seemingly go on forever. When you think of Mike Carter, you think of Watson Wyatt. I remember the good old days back when I was a littler kid. And all I had to worry about was what I was going to eat that day and what time the Mavericks were playing. I remember my mom taking me up to my dad's office to go to lunch. And I remember thinking about how cool it was. He had his own office. But I guess for those of you who worked with him and around him, it kind of resembled more of an aquarium with all of the fish that he had mounted on the wall. But I remember the great view he had of downtown. I remember going over to his window and looking down the street and seeing how small the cars looked. They looked just like the Matchbox cars I played with at home. Then I remember he would take me around and proudly introduce me to all of his coworkers, all of which have left a lasting impression on my father. After the introductions and greetings, it was on to a great lunch. Then after the lunch, it was one last stroll through his office, and of course you had to attack the drawer that was full of Snickers, grab a Snickers, and it was back home with my mom. And I remember the car ride home with my mom, I had a shocking revelation about my career and my future. I told my mom that I figured it all out. I figured out my career and my future when I got out of school. I was going to be an actuary during the day and a taxi cab driver at night. How much more rewarding and exciting of a career could you ask for? As I progressed further and further along my life, I began to gain a much larger and larger respect for my father. I don't know how many times he stayed up till 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, working on what he needed to have done that week or the next day. Then the next morning, the alarm went off at 6 o'clock in the morning. He's throwing my lights on and off, telling me, up and down, let's go. It's the most annoying thing, but he was there. First thing in the morning, after staying up till 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, making sure I was ready to get up and go to school the next day, that day, he'd eat breakfast with us, and then he would leave off for another day of work. He made the time for me, though, to take me to Dallas Mavericks games, to attend my sporting events when he wasn't traveling. He would always help me on my homework when I had trouble. That's a whole different story, if it was math. But I have a number of priceless memories that we will forever be cherished that I experienced involving the Dallas Mavericks. My dad would take me to the games, to practices, to autograph sessions, and then I became a ball boy. I remember after every game, my dad waiting 30 to 45 minutes after the game was over so that he could take me home. Knowing that he had work to do when he got home, he never made me feel like I was creating a burden or rushed me to get out of there. These memories and experiences that he allowed me to share with the Dallas Mavericks really began to shape my life and help me grow into the person that I am today. When my friends used to ask me what my dad did, I told them he was an actuary. And they just looked at me with a blank stare. What is an actuary? So I don't know. But, the only thing I know is that he's supposed to be able to tell companies when all their employees are going to die. That's the only thing I remember. But as time went on, I was able to gain a better understanding of what it was he actually did. I remember one of the few things I remember back from my college days, which actually was a while back. I'm older than I look. One of my accounting classes, we were talking about defined benefit plans, actuarial tables, and what it was the actuaries did and what they were responsible for. My professor kept going on and on and on about how it took a different type of person to be an actuary. I mean, one of the most outgoing people, they were number crunchers. He just kept going on and on and on. He inserted the only actuarial joke I've ever heard of how do you tell an extroverted actuary from an introverted actuary? An extroverted actuary looks at your shoes when he talks to you. So I raised my hand and I said, my dad's an actuary. And needless to say, it's got the attention of everybody in the class. So everybody looked at me and the professor decided he was going to back off those comments. But what was interesting is that he decided to come clean with his bitterness or his stereotyping of actuaries. That was actually his career plan, but he could never pass one of those damn exams. I went up to him afterwards and said, you know what, you've crushed my career plan. You know, I had this great career plan. I was going to be an actuary during the day and a taxi cab driver at night. I've got to find a new day job. So as far as this new day job, I couldn't think of a more fitting place for my career to start. Some 23 years to the exact day of my father's first day at Watson Wyatt, I began working in the Phoenix office as a retirement consultant for Watson Wyatt. I think it was only fitting that I began my career in the same place that helped shape my dad's career and paved the way for him being the greatest actuary that I've ever known. My father worked as hard as he could to make sure that everybody in our family had everything we needed to be successful in life. He taught me a lot about work ethic, dedication, persistence, and how things worked in the real world. It always amazed me how his passion never seemed to fade when it came to his job. I used to always ask him, why do you spend so much time with your job? Why do you work so hard? And his answer was simple. His answer was, I love what I do. And that simple statement has stuck with me and helped shape me to be the person that I am in my business career. To be the best at what you do and to be successful at what you do, you have to love what you do. I saw it every day that my father loved his job, and it was obvious by the manner in which he conducted his business. It is this love and passion for his job and for Watson Wyatt that marks my father and shows the person that he is and shows what he is made of. It is this passion and sense of loyalty that I've long admired and respected about my father. Through the good and the bad, through the thick and the thin, my father has always assured that he got his job done and got it done to his standards. I know the experiences that my father has had during his tenure at Watson Wyatt will be fondly remembered forever. I know the people that he had the pleasure to work with, for and around, will also be fondly remembered forever. And I know one thing for sure, I will always look up to my father with the utmost of respect, admiration, and love. And there was no one I could ever feel more honored to call my father than the man we're here to honor tonight, Mike Carter. I love you, Dad.
You're not going to get away without some comments from me. Kind of overwhelmed by my son's comments. I do want to thank all of you on this very special and meaningful night for me. I want to thank the ones that have made the comments tonight. I want to really thank those who made the effort to come here from out of town tonight to help me celebrate exactly 25 and a half years with Watson Wyatt. Your participation and your presence this evening mean so much to me, and it really does make me feel so good. It's great to know that there's still people out there that after all these years still in at least some way like me. I'd like to mention a few of the people from outside of Dallas who are here helping me celebrate this evening. We've had some speakers. Frank and Rosina Reddy from Mississippi, Dave Mills from Wisconsin, Susan Gallion, I'm not sure where Susan is, Susan worked with us for quite a few years in the Dallas office of then the Wyatt Company. There's at least one photo. I don't know if you've gone out there to look at the photos, the photo streams, but there's one with Susan and me and Nancy Hagel down in Cabo San Lucas. I'm going to make a few comments later on about Ray Lillywhite, someone who is very special to me from the San Francisco area. From Texas, we've seen Charles and Dory Dunlap, Ronnie Young, Tony Galaviz, and a TRS retiree, Wayne Fickle. Wayne goes back with me all the way to that first year back in 1976. From Colorado, we've got Meredith Williams. From Watson Wyatt, John Haley, Eric Loughran, Sanjay Varma. From GRS, we've got Norm Jones and Ken Davis. And I do appreciate them making the efforts to come. Even within here in Dallas, Alex Fixenhagen and his wife Bernadette are here. Are there others here from Dallas outside of Watson Wyatt? I'm drawing a blank right now. I don't want to forget you if there are. From my family members, I think a number of you have met some of my family members here tonight. My wife Lynette, my parents Bill and Alice Carter, my cousin Don and Susan Little. Don is a Dallas native. My mother's family was a Dallas. My mother was born in Dallas. I was born in Dallas, and I would come up to Dallas every year and spend at least 1 or 2 weeks of summer with Don. And I was telling him earlier tonight, he had a 50, what did we decide it was a 52, 53 Chevy? 53 convertible. And we'd go tooling around Dallas, all over the Casa Linda area in that 53 Chevy. And we'd always compare when we get out of the car, whose back was sweatier than the other. My mother-in-law Lillian Boroff, my brother-in-law Dale Boroff, my older daughter Shelley Carter, and her husband, my son-in-law Jeff Moore. They are they have graced me with my newest grandson, Will. Will is now 6 weeks old. No, 2. November, December, January. He's a little over 2 months old. Just over 2 months old. My second daughter, Allison, and her husband, Don Watts. Allison and Don graced me with my first grandson, Austin. Austin is now a little over 5, and my second grandson, Preston. Preston is right at 6 months old, coming up on 6 and a half. Austin has developed a love for baseball, and he's making a few trips out to the Texas Rangers with me. And then finally my son Ben that you just heard from. Ben is very special. Some of you have heard me talk about one of my favorite singers, the late Harry Chapin. Harry Chapin was a singer, a songwriter, a storyteller, a poet. He recorded a number of songs that really touched my heart. In his album called the Golden Medal Collection, he talks about 2 kinds of tired. He says there's good tired and there's bad tired. Some of you familiar with Harry Chapin? He's a very special songwriter, storyteller. He says that bad tired is a day that you might have won, but that you did other people's agendas, you fought other people's battles, and at the end of that day, when you look back over it, there was very little of you in that day. By contrast, he says that good tired might be a day that you actually lost. But at the end of that day, when you look back over it, you see that you fought your battles, you tackled your agendas, and that you put yourself into that day. Well, I have had, and I continue to have, some bad, tired days. There have been bad, tired days at Watson Wyatt. But I will say that during my career at Watson Wyatt, there have also been many, many good, tired days. I would also say it's safe to say that my career here at Watson Wyatt has been somewhat unique. There's a few of you here that have been around long enough to remember this. I think I am the only Watson Wyatt employee who ever got locked inside of his or her office and had to have a call made to the building maintenance to come up and take the door off the office to let me out. I will say I have never wanted a lock on my office since that day. I probably had one of the more unusually decorated offices within Watson Wyatt. I had 3 billfish mounted in there. At least I did until we moved into the Watson Wyatt standard office, and the walls weren't big enough for any of my fish. I will also say I am probably was the largest individual Watson Wyatt stockholder who was never given an opportunity to be on the board. Seriously though, it is exciting, it's humbling, and it really means a lot to see you folks here to help me celebrate this night and to celebrate this time, particularly at this particular stage of my life. I do want to give special recognition and thanks to some of the people that are here and some who could not be here who have played an important role in my life and in my career. Forgive me, I will not mention everybody, but I know you want me to eventually quit talking. The first one I want to talk about is Clark Beard. He mentioned when he hired me. He took a chance and he hired me 26 years ago. He asked me, he didn't say this, he asked me what I was making at Southland Life Insurance Company. I said, well, I'm making $24,000 a year. Not a month, $24,000 a year. I said, but, remember, this was 1975, 1976. I hadn't had a pay increase in 2 years because of the federal wage freeze that was in place. I hadn't had a wage freeze since I passed my last actuarial exam in 1974. I said, Clark, I've got a job offer from a consulting firm in Atlanta for $27,000. Clark said he didn't believe in buying an employee. He says, he'd give me a salary of $24,000, but if it worked out for the Wyatt Company at that time, if it worked out for the Wyatt Company, if it worked out for me, I would never regret it financially. Then within a couple of years, he also started offering me the opportunity to buy the Wyatt Company stock. And he told me I should buy all the stock that he could get for me, because in the long run, I would never regret it. Well, I have to say, he was right on both ways. So, compensation and the stock have been major benefits to me. That first year, and this has been mentioned, the first year at the Wyatt Company, another significant event occurred. Clark got a new client in the spring of 1976. He came to me and he said he needed an FSA to work on that account. And I didn't, I was the new guy on the block, and actually at that time I was young and I had a full head of hair. And he said, well, I want to help him on it. And the client was the Teacher Retirement System of Texas. And little did I know at that time how significant that decision would be and how it would shape the rest of my life, mostly for the good, but in some cases for less than the good. The second person I'd like to give special recognition to, and he could not be here tonight because of his the family illnesses for him, is Bob Webb. For the entire time that Bob ran the Dallas office, he gave me unwavering support and encouragement. Sometimes I think that the support